Welcome to the spot. It's time to ignite. Oh yeah. Operation Hangout. The feeling's just right. Chilling with the crew. We're ready to groove. Opinions flying high. Come on, let's move. Hang out all night long, all night. Laughing and debating, playing our song. Oh yeah. Share your thoughts, don't be shy, don't be shy. Operation Hangout, let's reach for the sky. Let's fly. Pull up a chair, let's get in the zone. Voices blend and smooth, like a funky trombone. Oh yeah. Topics from the heart, making us think. With a twist and a shout, raise up your drink. Cheers! Hang out all night long, all night. Laughing and debating, playing our song. Oh yeah. Share your thoughts, don't be shy, don't be shy. Operation Hangout, let's reach for the sky. Let's fly. Bring it down, shake it up, feel the beat. With every word we share, the circle's complete. Living loud, think it proud, that's what we do. Oh yeah. Join the club, come on through, we're waiting for you. Alright. Hang out, all night long, all night. Laughing and debating, playing our song. Oh yeah. Share your thoughts, don't be shy, don't be shy. Operation Hangout, let's reach for the sky. Let's fly. Hang out.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to another edition of the Hangout here on the Sparta HQ Network. I'm Mr. Bennett, joined by my bold and beautiful, beneficent, benevolent, bald brother from New Jersey. New Jersey, stand up. It's myself and my guy Anton in the building tonight, holding it down. Our guy Pete had a work assignment tonight, so again, we're going to hold down the fort for him. Glad you guys were able to make it here tonight. Make sure when you come in, hit the like button. Certainly when you come in, certainly like and subscribe to the network. We are very close to getting monetized. So again, hopefully a topic like we're going to be covering tonight will help us to get there. And, so certainly we welcome you to be part of this conversation and chat tonight on the Hangout, where we talk about pop culture, all things pop culture. And, it's just a place just to hang out, just have fun, kick it like we used to back in the day, back in the college campuses and the dorm rooms and whatnot. We just, kind of hanging out, just reminiscing about the old days and whatnot. But good to have you guys. Just one rule before we get started tonight, just make sure when you come in tonight, keep it respectful as always. No personal attacks, insults, or threats. Avoid offensive language. I'm glad Peter's not here tonight. But in any event, including slurs based on race, gender, religion, or sexual orientation, be courteous and polite to other viewers. So again, with that, my brother, what is going on with you, sir? How are you?
I'm doing all right, taking it one day at a time and everything else. Just finished up dinner and the whole nine, just
I got you. And how are you doing? Because I know you're still grieving. I see your in your hashtag there, Gina, who had passed. So how's the family holding up, and how you guys getting through this?
just basically just taking it one day at a time. I mean, we have our moments, we have our good days, we have our bad days. Earlier today, I was cleaning out my wife's car, and I found one of her old work IDs when she used to work at Newark Airport.
Mm,
It was surprising because this ID expired almost 20 years ago.
yeah.
But it was a job that she had. This was a side job that she had while she was attending Kane University. So
Okay.
seeing that and everything, because it's one of the few things that I've ever seen with her maiden name. So, when I showed it to my wife and my sister-in-law, they kind of got teary-eyed, but they kind of loved the fact that it's like one of the few things that still has her maiden name on it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Certainly hopefully it gets better. Certainly as time goes on, does tend to heal, and you realize that they're never gone, that they're always with you. I don't think a day goes by where I don't think about my dad. Good, bad, or indifferent. He's like part of me, and sometimes it's scary when I'm talking. Sometimes it's like he's talking through me to an extent. It's like, oh no, was that insurance ad about we can't stop you from becoming your parents or something like that? It was like a
Yes,
Geico app.
your dad or something.
Yes.
Yeah, I do see that.
So it's like it's one of those kind of things too.
Oh, I know.
So
I actually related because I look just like my father, and I'm named
there
after him
you,
too.
there
So
you go, there you go. That's right. You're a junior, right?
yeah,
So
Junior. I mean,
gotcha, gotcha.
like when I look at pictures of my dad, and there's one picture I posted, you probably saw it. It was on his 85th birthday.
Mm.
And they're like, "Yeah, that's gonna be me in 30 years."
I'm trying to find. That's why I keep training. Certainly I have my training day to day. So I'm trying, but I got this belly that it's like I've never had like a rips. My stomach's been flat, but I never like got down to like body fat where it's like 6% body fat or whatever. Like I never had like ripped abs like that.
I
And but
my time in the army.
yeah, yeah, yeah. But even when I got probably the best shape I ever got in, I did this. I think it's P90X program, and I really got really in good cardiovascular condition.
Oh wow.
But again, abs, like I said, my intercostals were coming out, but as far as like the six pack, I could never get that. But it was very flat. My abs were definitely very fat, and I could do a lot of weight. Like I'll put like an 80-pound weight vest on and do sit ups with it. I mean, just so I have my core is very strong. But as far as the abs, they don't want to come out, and it's getting harder every every year to try to make them come out at this point. So I try not to wear.
Had my six pack. I was like, "Oh my god, what the
Yeah, yeah.
heck?"
Right now, so I wear tight shirts, tight upper body, but loose in the ab area, just to give the illusion of the V taper or whatnot. But I don't want everything too tight because folks may call me out on that.
Yeah,
But in any event,
mindful of that, especially
yeah,
this.
absolutely. Absolutely. Yes, I'm not gonna taunt you tonight, Eric, with the coffee mug taunt. And but all I say is, just keep looking at that mailbox. We may surprise you very soon with that. So just stay tuned. Hope we'll get that coffee mug to you. But it's good to be here tonight. I mean, this is kind of like a last minute sort of thing. I know you and Pete were supposed to talk about another topic,
Right.
but the topic of wrestling movies came out. And so when he asked me, could I kind of sub in and talk about this a little bit, I really had to kind of go back in time
Mhm.
because my affinity for wrestling movies, and also when I'm talking about wrestling movies, I'm not talking about documentaries. You got
Right.
a billion documentaries out there. I know HBO has done some. I know we did one on Andre the Giant. I know there's a documentary on Hulk Hogan on Netflix right now. So we're not talking about those.
Yeah, we're not
We're
talking
talking about
about
films,
or
fictional films that cover professional wrestling. So we're not even talking about amateur wrestling shows. I think there was one. I think it was called Dream Quest back in the day. It came out in the '80s.
Vision Quest.
Vision Quest. That was a good as far as amateur wrestling. I think that certainly.
Matthew Modine.
Yeah, yeah. So that was a really good film back in the day. We're not even talking about that. We're talking about movies that really focus on professional wrestling and whatnot. So I really had to think back in time. And honestly, I was sort of very early to the game. The ones that came to mind like right away were movies that really came out in the 70s
Oh wow.
that I'm not sure. I know we're Gen X, so maybe you may remember some of these and maybe not. But I would also say you can certainly the fact that they're so old and nobody cares about them anymore. They're on YouTube. Like I literally just looked them up. So like the full movies are on YouTube, so you can definitely find those. So I remember the first movie that I really had exposure to was this movie called Mad Bull. It came out in 1977, and it starred Alex Karras. Now, if you don't know who Alex Karras was,
Uh,
he's an Hall of Fame football player. Played for the Detroit Lions for most of his career, and for a more closer reference, if you don't know that, in the '80s, remember that TV series Webster?
yes.
Emmanuel Lewis. He played the adoptive father of Emmanuel Lewis. So in a few years earlier, he broke an. I remember him from. He was on an episode of The Odd Couple, and The
Dude,
Odd Couple is my favorite comedy of all time. Like in terms of TV comedies,
right.
The Odd Couple by far is my favorite. So I've watched virtually every episode more than once.
Wow.
And he was in an episode of that where he played a football player, and apparently his wife was kind of fooling around with Felix and whatnot, and there was a whole mess there. But he got into acting pretty early, certainly in his career. And so this movie Mad Bull came out. I think it was like one of those CBS set Sunday night movies or something like that, made for
Oh, yeah.
TV. I don't think it had a theater run, a movie theater run. And it was, at the time, it was sort of eye opening in terms of, like I don't remember, like I said, a film that covered wrestling like that. And so, so there was a a big thing around that. And I remember, and it's weird how you remember stuff, because when I was thinking about the topic, I remember the movie, and I remember the climactic fight at the end where him and I guess the champion at the time, they were fighting on the top of a steel cage.
Wow.
And basically, there was like toe to toe. So he put him in a bear hug and basically sapped all the strength of the champion or whatever. The champion fell off the top rope back into the ring. He crawled out the ring and was. I remembered that before I even watched it. So when I found the movie, I was just doing research. It was exactly how I remembered it. The music, everything. So it's just amazing how the mind is. You have these memories that just never leave you, like it was yesterday.
Right.
And it was really, like I said, an eye opener for me. So that's my first memory of a wrestling movie, of a wrestling film. What about yours? What was the first professional wrestling movie that you recall seeing?
I remember, well, since you're a little bit older than me, one movie, ironically, I remember seeing, and I was about 9, 10 years old. It was called Body Slam.
Yep.
And it starred Dirk Benedict. I think this is after, I don't know if it was during or after he finished up with the A-Team, because it came out
Yeah.
in 6.
Yeah.
It was him,
That was it. Roddy Piper was in it.
Roddy Piper, the Tonga Kid,
Yep.
and Dirk Benedict played a music promoter.
Hmm.
And next, all of a sudden, he's promoting these two wrestlers at the same time.
Right.
And one of the things that he was doing that was barnstorming was rock and wrestling,
Yeah.
where he had the rock group playing while they were competing in the wrestling ring at the same
That's
time.
right.
And for anyone that remembers, it was kind of like the prelude to the cartoon Hulk Hogan's Rock and Wrestling,
Mm.
where you have the familiar faces within the WWF at the time, and
Right.
barnstorming and doing music and everything at the same time.
Right.
It was Hulk Hogan, Nikolai Volkov, the Iron Sheik, Andre the Giant,
Right.
all all the regulars that we all remember.
Right.
And I think that was one of the preludes. That was one of the first movies I remember seeing involving pro wrestling. Another movie I do remember seeing at that time as well, later on, was No Holds Barred.
Yep.
And that was around the time when Hogan was starting to dab into acting. That was also the introduction of Tiny Zeus
Yep.
Lister,
Yep.
character name, rest in peace, big up to Zeus.
Yep.
And I remember him, ironically, before he did this movie, I remember him being on an HBO original series called First and 10.
Hmm.
About
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. I remember that. Yeah. Yeah.
That's how far back we go.
I know. Now it was like 1987. I think First and 10 came out on HBO.
Yeah, around that
That
time.
was one of the first where they started doing like TV series. Like HBO was like movies, like movies that just kind of came out of theater before they went to, I guess, home disc or VHS or whatever. They would play on HBO, but HBO started having these series that they would show regularly. So I remember First and 10 being. I remember O.J. Simpson was on this. That's how
right.
bad it goes.
Burke was on it too. I think that was one of her early shows as well before
Yeah.
Finding Women.
Yeah, exactly. John Matuzak from the Raiders was on there. You had and it was weird because they dealt. It was almost like, I don't know if you remember the movie North Dallas 40.
I heard the story. I've heard of
Yeah,
it.
it was, but it was like that. It was like very much so they showed you sort of the ugly underbelly of football, you know, the drug use and things like that, the partying, the women and stuff.
Right.
But it was you know, certainly a very memorable series. And you had again a lot of guys. I think even at Lyle Alzado might I think had a few appearances in that too. A lot of those Raiders actors had movie roles. Yeah, so that was definitely one. I know Eric he had mentioned the first movie that he recalls seeing actually here. This one I don't remember. So it says the earliest movie is the one and only with, oh yeah, I do remember this one. This one was so silly. Basically Henry Winkler, he was like a what do you call those guys, those hypnotists.
Yeah.
So he basically, I mean, he's in the ring with these guys and he's basically hypnotizing them when he's in the ring with them, you know, basically have them taking dives and all this kind of stuff, and he becomes like this heel kind of guy where
Really?
he has, yeah, it was kind of silly. It was, and you understand a lot of the movies for the most part, and two in particular I'll probably put on my, you know, kind of like the A level movies, and then everything's kind of like a step below. I think a lot of these films sort of treated wrestling kind of comedically.
Yeah.
And I think that certainly that movie in particular was certainly one of them that that I remember having that edge to it. But yeah, but I mean Henry Winkler's like, it's weird. When he was the Fonz on Happy Days, you thought he was the toughest, baddest dude in the world.
Right.
But in real life, he's a small dude. He's not
Yeah.
a big guy altogether. You know what I mean?
Now
And
that
like I said, in the movie, it even highlighted that even more. He's not a big guy whatsoever. So it's like, you know, it's so they definitely took some liberties with that one. But I do now I do remember that now that you mentioned it.
mm, well,
So
that's one I can't think of anything else after that, but
okay. Well, I got a couple more. There's another movie that I remember from back in the day, and this was from 1981, a little bit later. And again, this is one of those made for TV movies. This was on ABC. Remember ABC used to do those Sunday night movies,
yes,
or
ABC.
or Saturday night movies. No,
Yeah,
it was
a
no,
lot.
because back then it wasn't Saturday night, because Saturday night was locked in.
Yeah.
Saturday night was Love Boat and Fantasy Island and,
Mhm.
and all that. So that was, yeah, Saturday night. You didn't touch Saturday night. So, but Sunday night, they always had the Sunday night movie. So there was this one movie that was called All the Marbles,
Wow.
and it was about this female tag team wrestling team, and they were called the California Dolls. And that one, it had Peter Falk, Vicky Frederick, and Laureen Landon
Wow.
certainly in the film. And Peter Falk, you know, he was known from his Columbo TV series from the 70s. So I remember again vividly watching that one.
I
And
could
they was again, so not only was a wrestling film, but about female tag team wrestling. I mean, female wrestling really wasn't that big in the 70s. You had Fabulous Moolah, and you had,
young.
ladies here and there. This was even before Wendy Richter and the whole rock and wrestling angle came
Yeah.
out. It wasn't a big thing. So that was a film that I vividly remember watching. Now Eric says he remembers that one in the theater. I didn't think it was in the theater, but if it was, certainly kudos for being in the theater.
I was
The first time I saw it, it was on TV, and so that was a memorable film. And that one again, I mean, certainly it was kind of comedic, but it was meant to be somewhat, somewhat serious. It was kind of like almost kind of like a Rocky type of feel to it or whatever, but it wasn't like
okay.
dark and depressing.
Right.
But the one movie I saw recently that I didn't see in my youth, that definitely you owe yourself if you haven't gone back and seen it. This movie called The Wrestler. Now it's not the wrestler that you're talking about.
Mm.
This wrestler movie goes back to 1974.
Oh, really? Okay.
And this one, you had a lot of wrestlers in it from the AWA. So
Wow.
this one had Vern Gagne in the film. He was like the main champion in it. You had other guys in there. This guy Cunningham, I think his name was Cunningham. No, Billy. Oh, geez. think it was Billy Washington was the name of the guy. But he was a big guy. Now again, Billy Robinson. Billy Robinson was in it. Now Billy Robinson has the distinction, and again, I didn't know this until years later. If you remember the '80s, there was a guy called the Missing Link.
Okay.
He had his face painted blue, and he would always pull on his hair and whatnot. That was Billy Robinson,
Wow.
and he was also in that film. Um, it had Ed Asner. So if you remember Ed Asner, the actor, he was in the film, but it also has some very interesting cameos
Yes.
in the film as well. Now I'm gonna see if I can I'm gonna see if I can get this to come up, and I want to see if you can recognize if I can get this if I get this to come up. But again, the film's called The Wrestler,
I'm looking
and I
up
want to see.
it now. Yeah, it came out 74. Yes, I'm looking at it right now. Wow.
So I want to show you something. Now I want to see if you can recognize who this is. Let me see if I can share my screen. Give me a second. Give me a second. Give me a second. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen and see if you can recognize who this is. Let me see if I can do this. Boom. Share my screen, and I'm going to blow it up. Do you recognize the guy on the right?
No, I do
Now, the
not.
guy on the left is Billy Robinson. So,
Okay.
Billy Robinson, I think he was like a British wrestler or something like that. Very good. Very. I mean, if you want to talk about like what they call shooters,
Yeah.
Billy Robinson was a shooter.
Okay.
He'd mess you up if you mess with the guy. The guy on the right, do you recognize who that is?
No, I do not.
That is Ric Flair.
Are you serious?
That is Ric Flair. Ric Flair before he became the Ric Flair that we know of. Ric Flair was a 300-pound brunette, dark skin, heavy set guy.
Wow.
When he had his plane accident in 1974, and he had his, I think he broke his back, and so part of getting back into wrestling shape was one, he lost a ton of weight. He definitely put the cardio in and the aerobics in order to get in shape. And he had got into like the 230s and 240s, which we know him as. Then he dyed his hair blonde and he went with the robes and all that. But Ric Flair, if you look at Ric Flair from the early 70s, 1972, 1974, he looked very different. He was chubby. He was like he back in the day, he was a power lifter. So he was over 300 pounds back in the day. And so what we know Ric Flair, that wasn't it. So I saw that movie maybe about 5 or 6 years ago for the first time. And again, it had a lot of wrestlers. It had Dusty Rhodes in there. It had Dick Murdoch in that film. There was like a brawling scene, in the film as well. So Dusty and those guys were the Texas Outlaws from the 80s. From the 70s and whatnot. They were like a notorious heel tag team before Dusty became the American Dream. Him and Dick Murdoch, they were the roughest. They were notorious heels from the late 60s into the early 70s. And so they were in the film. So that was another one though that again it had this veneer of it was a sort of a fictional world, but there were so many actual wrestlers, real legit wrestlers in it. There were a lot of training scenes in it. There was a lot of, Vern Gagne teaching guys, how to be in. He was sort of like he was the champion, but he was like the veteran. He was showing guys in the ring. So it was definitely, it kind of gave you an intro into the wrestling business. Wow. You also, I think there was a scene with the promoters. I think Vince McMahon Sr. was in it. A lot of, So again, this is like in the NWA days. And again, the NWA was basically a conglomerate of the territory owners, and they would meet up and decide who was going to be champion and who were they going to raise, and where the champion went throughout the territories. So again, it was very much an inside look. But again, it's one of those movies that is that's you have to go back and find. But like I said, because it's sort of forgotten. And again, and this is one of the reasons why we were talking about last night. I think this is one of the reasons why you need
A
like
whole
a real deal wrestling Hall of Fame,
yeah,
so you can capture a lot of this content in these movies and things in these things, so people don't just forget about them. Because I guarantee you that probably 95% of most TNA or AEW or WWE fans today have no idea about these films. They know Ric Flair,
right.
but do they know Vern Gagne?
I
And
think very few people know who Vert Gagne is.
yeah, yeah, but I mean, he was one of those early guys from the '50s when you had Luthez and
Oh
just
wow, yeah,
those OG guys, Buddy Rogers, all those old guys from the old
like,
territory days.
yeah,
Yeah, I mean, he was even before Bruno Sammartino. So you gotta I think that the history,
you have
just like we're big on NFL history, going back to the 30s, 40s, and 50s, we know, Sunny Light Train Lane and, all the guys who made the leap, what it was, Johnny Unitas,
right.
all those guys. I think wrestling needs to know who these guys were as well, because again, they laid the foundation for what we have today. So those three films, right? So you have The Wrestler, 1974, you
Okay.
have Mad Bull, 1977, and you had All the Marbles, 1981, when that came out. Those are my earliest entries into movies. And then once you get into the 80s, you're right, you did see the movie with Roddy Piper and Dirk Benedict, Body Slam and those other films. And then certainly once, and it's weird because initially Hulk Hogan, now he played in Rocky 3 as Thunderlips.
Whoops, yeah,
And it was interesting because Vince McMahon Sr. did not want him to do the role.
that's right.
And he left WWF at the time to go and do Rocky 3.
Mm-hmm.
Hulkamania actually started in the AWA in 83. And then when Vince took over, like in 83, 84, Vince McMahon Jr., he then brought Hulk Hogan and Hulkamania back. So a lot of people think that, Hulkamania started in WWF. No, it started in the AWA. Now, it's also interesting, too, is because Vern Gagne, being the old school stubborn guy that he was, he blew an opportunity. So Vince McMahon Sr. blew an opportunity,
Mm-hmm.
and Vern Gagne blew an opportunity because all Hogan wanted to do was he saw what Hulkamania was doing. He wanted to sell merch.
Right.
Vern Gagne said, "Look, if you sell merch, anything that I get 25% of everything you have." You say, "Bump that. I'm not giving." So it
Right.
was easy for Junior to kind of come and bring him in
Mm-hmm.
with all that bluster, because Junior also saw where wrestling was going with the marketing, with the advertising, with the music,
Yep.
and everything else that was going with it, the entertainment aspects of it, as you started off earlier, talk about the Hulk Hogan rock and wrestling.
Yeah.
So he was able to see that, but Vern Gagne, he was just too stubborn to sort of recognize
He was very
this is
old.
the future.
He was old school, set his ways. And on one side, I can see why. Maybe we could all see why Gagne was like that, because he didn't feel like this is going to hurt not the industry, but the culture associated with the industry.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But again, it's just like anything else, right?
Right.
Um, especially if you're an old school company. I mean, the ability to pivot. They say today your best ability is your flexibility or your adaptability,
Right.
not just, you're good at what you do and whatnot. And I get it. There was this era of protecting the business.
Right.
And some people still opine for that. I know Eric, he's an old school wrestling, um, he's an old school wrestling guy, whatever. I certainly appreciate a lot of the old school stuff.
Yeah.
But we recognize that things change, and certainly Vince was able to see that, and unfortunately, by the time everybody else caught up to it, it was already too late.
Yeah.
And so they kind of brought it
He
brought it out.
found a way to take all these other territories, bring them all together, take their talent, start the WWF, and he basically looked at his father and was like, "You saw one aspect, I see something bigger we can do," and
Hmm.
that's what he did. And
Yeah,
as much as people may want to knock McMahon for a lot of the other stuff, pro wrestling wouldn't be where it is now
yeah.
if it wasn't for Vince McMahon.
Don't tell Eric that.
Yeah,
He's-
I understand why people may feel that way,
yeah.
but we weren't like I remember you and I remember USA Network showing superstars on Saturday and on Sunday. We all
Yep.
remember Mean Gene Oakland giving commentary on certain wrestlers or tag teams and everything else.
Right.
You
Now,
know,
so again, another. I mean, basically, Vince McMahon fleeced the AW because Mean Gene's from AWA.
mm,
Jesse the Body Ventura's from AWA. So he went in. I mean, once the sort of the doors open, so all these guys, it was like a mass exit because again, Vern was too stuck in his ways, too stuck in the old school, and a lot of guys left as a result of that.
right.
And it's weird too because AWA they actually had an ESPN deal back in the mid to late 80s. You saw them; they were actually like at the Showboat in Atlantic City.
Oh wow,
They
that's
were doing shows out of there. So ESPN, they even had world class championship wrestling on ESPN. I mean, they were really trying to,
trying
so
to
you had a lot of these promotions had national platforms, but the problem was again, they couldn't keep a lot of their talent. Or in the case of the world class, it was all about the Von Erichs, and we all know what happened to those guys.
yeah,
So I mean, it was it just wasn't meant to be there. But ESPN they were trying to get on. People talk about the package that they got now. They were trying to nationalize wrestling back in the 80s.
yeah,
It's just that a lot of these companies that just didn't know how to really handle it or step up to that because especially in the territory days, I mean, it was a lot easier to hide the business or to protect the business back then because it was regional television
right,
and you can go like for example you can run an angle in another part of the country and nobody would know about that angle. Like you could have the same finish in a lot of different markets,
yeah,
but once you go national, once it's done, it's done. You can't reinvent the wheel once you go national. So I think a lot of those territories that were so used to being able to take a gimmick or take an angle and run it throughout the territory and whatnot, and
right,
nobody was any of the wiser. Because even the wrestling magazines back then, it was like you found out about stuff that happened like a month earlier.
yeah,
And so there was always that thing of like never quite being in the loop of what was actually going on. So they were able to milk it a lot more. But now it's virtually impossible to do that. But let's talk about, like I said, certainly probably the seminal film of wrestling, which is The Wrestler, and that certainly was
Mickey,
the newer the newer film 2008
Mickey Rourke.
with obviously Mickey Rourke,
And
and
from what
that was an eye opener.
right,
That was a very difficult film to watch because for the first time, and again, I grew up a wrestling fan and whatnot. That was the first time I kind of saw what the underbelly of wrestling was in terms of how it is for most. Like we see the superstars on TV, but you didn't know like what happened to these guys when they leave the stage and what their lives are like kind of afterwards.
right,
And I know even at the time, you had a lot of mixed reaction, even from the wrestlers themselves, because they thought they were kind of going backstage a little bit and kind of exposing the business.
yeah,
But it was a very real look into like I said, the underbelly, the drug use, the steroids, what the day to day life is. A lot of these guys or have injuries. They don't have health insurance.
mm-hmm,
And probably to me, the saddest part of it was I think he went to like one of those wrestling cons, if you will, or just guys, they got like action figures and it's
right.
just old stuff that they're trying to sell and trying to hang on to something.
So sorry.
And they didn't, so that was hard to watch for me. I mean, it's like what they always say is like you never want to meet your heroes, right?
Right.
And so what was your thoughts on that aspect of the film, or what parts of the movie stuck out to you the most in it? And there was just so many things. It was like I said, it was a painful watch for me. I've only seen it a couple times.
Never had a chance to
Quite
really.
frankly, I can't see it too often because it's just depressing.
I never really had a chance to catch it in its entirety, but from the parts that I saw and from the clips that I remember, it showed how, and you got to give credit to Mickey Rourke for
Mhm.
pulling it off, not just for portraying the character of the Ram, but also him training and actually making everything look authentic. And
Yeah.
that's not easy for someone who's never been in the business and was able to approach it like as he was look like as if he was a veteran. It showed what happens when the cheering stops. The messed up relationships he's had with his family and trying to make amends. He knew he was at the end. And I think it was like he was trying very hard to recapture what he once had. And he
Mhm.
do everything possible, no matter what it took, to try to reclaim what once was. And also at the same time, trying to make things right with the people he has hurt during that path to stardom. That's one of the things I think a lot of people you never hear is how the children, the ex-wives or ex-girlfriends, or other people that had to deal or saw the things and the difficulties and the challenges of what the business is, the constant traveling, being away from home for over 200 days out the year, not
Mhm.
seeing your kids, for a period of time, forcing yourself to still wrestle and compete top notch despite the fact that you're hurt, finding things out that your wife doesn't want to be with you anymore because you're always on the road, or finding out that she's been doing things while you're on the road. It just really showed from what I saw. It really showed a lot of things you never thought that went on, because you're thinking, okay, in the case of WWE, you're thinking Raw, you're thinking SmackDown, and then of course all the other shows they used to have: Velocity, Sunday Night Heat, Saturday Night's Main Event. You're thinking they just rest on those, okay, and then of course the pay-per-views. But you never think about they're actually doing in-house shows at the same time, or they're taping Velocity and Sunday Night Heat during SmackDown, or they're taping another show during Raw
Mhm.
at the same time. You don't think about that sometimes. Even with WCW, you had Nitro, you had Thunder, but they didn't really have any other shows after that. It was just those two, and then maybe I remember they used to do some stuff in Orlando at Universal Studios. Also,
Yeah.
kind of like a superstar show where for a period of time they had wrestlers in Orlando for a few months, and they would just tape shows there and everything else, and they would air it. Like they would have stuff going on for maybe like a total of maybe 4 months,
Yeah.
but then you saw 6, 7, 8 months worth of footage on TBS, not knowing that they already taped all these, and now you're starting to see them air.
Right.
You don't even realize that. It the wrestler really just showed the challenges and the difficulties that comes along with this business.
Mhm.
And I think what it did also, you saw Terry Funk, you saw Jake Roberts, you saw Tony Atlas. A lot of the wrestlers you remember who were big in their heyday
Mhm.
and still wrestling despite the fact that they had no insurance, despite the fact that their bodies are broken, despite the fact that they're living, they're only making at the most what, 50, $60 a match.
Yeah.
And it's like, wow. And for what they did in the movie, and for them to capture that, and for Mickey Rourke to pull it off, that's a great performance. You cannot fake that.
Yeah.
You really can't.
Yeah.
And all the accolades it got, well deserved. And hopefully I'll get a chance to see when I get a chance to see it, from beginning to end. But from what I've heard from a lot of people that are wrestling fans and people that are not wrestling fans, they said it was a great movie.
Yeah. Like I said, the main people I saw who were upset with it were the wrestlers themselves, because again, they thought it did too much to expose the business. I mean, you're talking about coming. I mean, I know it's 2008, So I mean, the business certainly McMahon already, certainly with the Attitude Era, he already kind of, took the kayfabe off the business to an extent.
Yep.
So that was kind of already there, but I don't know how much it got to like the main, like the Gen Pop, at that time. And again, there's always this thing about protecting the business, and it's also interesting that in 2008, I think when did YouTube come out? Like 2005,
Around that
2006.
2006, 2007, I think that's around the time when social media really started to blow up.
Right. But you notice that after then, you started seeing a lot of wrestlers who started to do shoot interviews at that time.
Right.
If this was like the 90s, I think even if it was there, I don't think a lot of wrestlers would do it because there was this idea, again, protecting the business.
Right.
So again, to go back to have scenes of guys in the locker room giving themselves steroid shots, that that was like unheard of.
Yeah.
And a lot of that stuff didn't really come out until you had the hearings with Vince McMahon over the drug reach, Dr. Sakarian and those guys in the backstage and all that controversy that came afterwards. But that was something like, again, you just wouldn't show.
Right.
And like I said, to see stars who are like, again, they're set up at a table and they're trying to sell like used merch. I mean, it's not even, like I remember the scenes, like it wasn't even new. It was like just old action figures and figurines and stuff that they had back in the day when stuff was selling. And now these guys are, trying to find a career. And then also keep in mind, a lot of these guys didn't have any life skills. I mean, the thing is, what make it work, he, trying to work in a deli. Like a lot of these guys didn't know. It's like, how do you function? Like, and for a lot of these athletes, I mean, not just wrestlers, but football players and guys, if your whole life has been dedicated to a sport and you never learn like how to work outside of it, you have a lot of people that function. I mean, even military guys. I mean, you could probably speak to this. How many guys get out of the military, but they have a difficult time, especially if you went into when you were like 17, 18 years old, you
Exactly.
put 10, 15 years and you come out and it's like, okay, well, I guess I'll get a job. I'm like, where?
Yeah.
Because again, your whole life has been so structured around an environment that was very controlled.
Right.
And that doesn't always transfer to the business world or what whatever it is. Even I remember guys I went to college with, the Rutgers. I mean, we had military guys like in their 30s in the classroom, 18, 19, 20-year-old people. So you could already tell there was like a big age disparity and whatnot, but you could even tell just how they talked. You just knew these guys they were much more mature.
Right.
And they're still trying to figure some things out. But that's tough also. It's like, how do you adapt to life after that, when especially back, in his heyday with Randy Robinson, the Ram, you're in arenas with tens of thousands of people shouting your name. Where else are you going to get that kind of experience?
Exactly.
Or just like if you were in the military, if you're flying like Cobra helicopters, what job in the private sector is going to give you that kind of thing? Even if you flew helicopters, let's say you became a commercial pilot, you're used to flying at Mach 2,
Yeah.
and now you're flying for Boeing or FedEx or something.
Yeah. But
It's not the same. It's not the same
honestly,
thing.
a good number of the pilots that I met at the job, a good number of them did have military experience. A good number
Yeah.
of either Navy or Air Force. A few of them were in the Marine Corps.
Yeah.
But you
Yeah.
did have a good number, but not a lot, but you did have a good number that were in the service. And it's hard to acclimate that. And for the Ram, for Randy Robinson in the movie, the wrestler, it was that challenge of where do I go from here?
Yeah.
And that was the challenge for his character. Where do I go from here? And that's why I said Terry Funk. That's why I said Jake the Snake Roberts. That's why I said Tony Atlas.
Mhm.
Because a lot of these guys all wrestled in the big, whether it was WWE or WCW. Okay, whatever happened to them after that? It was like, now I remember watching on MTV, they had a documentary, True Life. And one of the episodes was I'm a professional wrestler. And it showed Terry Funk, I think in his 50s, still wrestling.
Yeah.
Tony
Oh yeah. I
Atlas,
mean, Terry Funk wrestled in ECW.
yeah,
I mean, you got this 56-year-old man, and he's in the ring with barbed wire and tacks. I mean, he's basically trying to do Cactus Jack, but he's like twice his age. I mean I mean, where else do you find that? Um, and I'm actually surprised that he was able to do it for as long as he did. Because
yeah,
again, he was a form, and you almost forget that this guy was the NWA champion in the 70s.
right.
And so for him to think that he has to continue to do that and put himself out there for it, yeah, I mean it is something that is like I said, at the end of the day, it's like you ask yourself, like, why do these now again, I get part of these guys just love the business. That's all they know, and they love it. I think I think to be a professional wrestler for real, there's got to be a screw loose somewhere, right? I mean, there is. I mean, it's like same with boxing, right?
I think
You
what
don't have you don't have too many Harvard educated boxers just getting in the ring and taking shots to the head. I mean,
other than the Klitschko brothers who both got PhDs, I can't think of
that's rare. I mean, I'm just saying most of these guys they fight as a sort of as a way of as a way of life. But again, it's very rare when these guys are certainly there. Now, Tony Atlas, he was actually there in the '90s. I remember that he did a match with like Ron Simmons and whatnot, and then he went in mid '90s and whatnot. He went on the indie circuit, but Tony Atlas was homeless for a year,
yeah,
slept on a park bench for a year. I mean, like his wife found him, in the park because he just did. I mean, he wasn't the smartest tack in the world, and he just found himself in a place where again a lot of these guys also they live hand to mouth.
right.
They're not taking their winning. At least most of the guys aren't. I mean, guys like Cena, whatever. I mean, you would think those guys are well adjusted, or they know how to do stuff, or they have an entrepreneurial mind where they sort of take care of business. But
Actually,
for a lot of these guys, and again, I don't think a lot of those guys taught that. I don't think they got that from the wrestling. Now, if you look at the NFL or NBA, I think they've done a much better job, especially for rookies coming into the league, to say, okay, this is what you need to do. This is where your money needs to go. This is how you take care of some things. I think there's a lot more structure. But in the days of wrestling, certainly back in the territory days, there was none of that.
right.
you know, and these guys literally live hand to mouth. Now, some of it's their fault because they
For
drank and shot up and smoked a lot of that money.
and party too.
Yeah, to
And
keep themselves going from night to night, and certainly once drugs got into it, I mean the steroids and everything, you got to keep that going as well. So I think a lot of these guys really went through their money.
yeah,
And but no one, but who's going to be there to really show you, like, to have a savings plan, or put money aside, or you're sending money home. And then another thing is, I think you mentioned it earlier, I mean, these guys are married a lot of times, but then there's divorces,
yeah.
so she's going to take half your money. So I mean,
Ironically, one of the rumors I heard, and I don't know if this is true, I heard this. JBL, John Bradshaw Layfield, and Ron Simmons, from what I was hearing, these guys actually were CPAs, and they were helping a good number of the wrestlers in how to save their money, how to put
yeah,
money to the side, how to invest it, so on and so forth. And from what I hear, you talk to anyone that's either still in the business or still connected to the business, you're never going to hear any bad things said about any of those guys.
yeah,
And that I think that was the reason why they came up with the APA mantra, because they were actual CPAs. They actually helped a lot of the superstars
yeah,
save money, invest, and everything else. How to
yeah,
put them away to where once they're done, they have a nice nest egg to lean on
yeah,
and probably invest it in stock and who knows what else.
yeah, yeah,
So I guarantee you, you look at a good number of the wrestlers who just retired within the last couple of years, a good number of them are sitting on something really good.
Yeah, you hope so. But I remember even like Maven. Now I know Maven. Maven never made the big money,
Right.
but even him, he had a situation where, again, it was a struggle because once he got out, I think he was on Home Shopping Network. He got out a bit out of. I think he had a background. He's a teacher first.
Right.
He was a teacher, then he got into wrestling. Then once he got out of wrestling, he was on Home Shopping Network, and then I guess got caught in some drug stuff or whatever, and he was scrambling, for money. So
Indie
so
circuit for a
even
period of time as well.
was that
He also did the indie circuit for a period of time as well.
yeah
I remember one of
so
the times.
yeah
I remember one of the times I ran into him. A real cool guy to talk to.
hmm
Great guy, very pleasant. Tell you some stories. It's funny when you hear about a good number of these wrestlers when you see the side of them outside the ring. And what the channel that he currently has on YouTube, he was telling me how he was getting that started.
Yeah, it wasn't even him. It was a guy pitched it to him because he doesn't know. He's definitely not tech savvy, so he wasn't about YouTube and algorithm or whatnot. I think a guy came to him, made the pitch, and he kind of built it from there.
And
Um,
shout out to him. If he's watching, shout out to him because it's working because I actually follow him.
yeah,
You know,
yeah,
I follow him and everything else for what he's done, talking about a lot of things. And he talks about a lot of the wrestlers that are no longer in the business. I remember when he did the one with Buff Bagwell, and that was kind of tough to watch.
because he's not in the best of health.
Yeah,
Certainly at this time, and again, what factors went into that? Yet I mean that's you can speculate there in terms of what's there, but again, he was Buff Bagwell for a minute,
yeah.
and you kind of know why. But I know Eric was mentioning DDP. I know he's helped a lot of guys out.
Oh, yeah.
Again, certainly Jade Snake Roberts, even Lex Luger. Lex, trying to help him to walk. And again, Lex Luger, again, a guy had one of the best bodies in wrestling for so many years, and then some freak incident happened, whatever, where he just lost. He just lost his ability to move, and so it's just amazing how things kind of take you down there. But the main reason I brought that up was just to talk about after the wrestler came out. It's almost as if the wrestlers themselves, the real wrestlers, had a freedom to express themselves in a way that they couldn't before. And certainly Eric mentioned, certainly in the early days of YouTube, you had this interactive interview with James Walsh. I remember that, and again, a lot of guys would just shoot on their careers,
Right.
which I don't think they would have done before until that movie came out. So I think it did a lot of good for wrestlers in terms of freeing them to finally kind of share their experiences. And people took an interest in like, yeah, I really want to know what's it really like to be on the road. I really want to know what's it like to have these injuries, and how do you get yourself up every day to go out and do these things.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I was very like I said, as hard of it as it was to watch, I was still saying to myself, it's like, wow, this is like I said, very eye opening. So like the next time I would see wrestlers, or if I was ever in that situation where you went to like an indie show or something and you saw these guys or whatever, it's almost like you want to give them just something.
Right.
Because it's like because I said, if you were like that, you probably wouldn't have to be there, or you would only go to like the big shows and expos and whatnot. We saw the last Comic-Con, Eric and I and Pete and all went to, we saw Sergeant Slaughter there. But I mean, I'm thinking to be there, and the year before I saw Rikishi. I got a picture with Rikishi
Nice.
when we were there. But again, to be in those spots though, you need a little money because again, you don't. Some venues you got to pay to be into a lot of these venues,
Exactly.
and you get a lot of people coming to you. So,
I think
yeah,
I think what the
good.
movie the wrestler did, and in wrestling terms, it took him behind the gorilla position.
Yeah,
What it did.
well said, well said. Absolutely. So yeah, I would have to say the wrestler, again, the Mickey Rourke version, not to 1970. Although, like I said, go and watch the 1974 version. I think that'll be eye opening to see how many, especially if you're an old school wrestling fan, how many of those old school wrestlers that you'll recall in the film. There were quite a number of them. I think that's worth seeing as well. Again, it's not as dark or anything like that, or it doesn't feel like a documentary the
Right.
way this one did, but it definitely took you into sort of behind the scenes and how live these guys. And again, especially back then, I mean, guys were, like I said, you had some shooters, Billy Robinson, a lot of those guys, even Vern Gagne, they would stretch you out. Like this was back in the day where, okay, you want to be a wrestler, get on the mat, and they'll just, they'll hurt you. I remember Hulk Hogan, he got trained by Hiro Matsuda the first day he trained with Hiro, he broke his leg.
Ooh.
And then he was like, come back a year later if you still want to do this. And Hogan went back. I got to give Hogan credit. He went back and they continued from there and serious. But the whole idea back then, they wanted to weed you out.
Yeah.
Because if you came in thinking, oh, this is just entertainment or this is fake or whatever, you had real dudes who knew how to tap you out, break something or whatever. And that was the thing. It was a very select club of people.
Yeah.
And a lot of those guys did have like Iron Sheik. I mean, the guy wrestled like I think in the Olympics or something like that. So I mean, and he got stretched out. I remember reading I had Ric Flair's book To Be the Man, his biography, and he talked about he went, and I forget the guy who stretched out Iron Sheik again, 1972 Olympian, and he got stretched out. I mean, like crying. Because the guy he really tapped him out. But that's how it was. It was a very select club. If the 3,000 Hindi squats didn't delete you, the just being stretched out would. And so surely I think that movie will give you some time. But I would say the most recent film that I'm about halfway through. I didn't get a chance to, like I said, I didn't know I was going to be doing it. So I got through it so far. I got to recommend, if you haven't seen it already, The Iron Claw.
I heard a lot about that. I didn't record it, but
so far I'm through about half the film and I'm very engaged because I know a lot about the Von Erichs. I watched World Class in the mid 80s. And then the subsequent documentaries that came out about the Von Erichs afterwards, they talk about the family's cursed and whatnot.
Right.
But I'm halfway through the film, and I'm very intrigued by the film. Like, it's definitely got a lot of my interest. So far, it's a very good film, but it's about the Von Erichs, the Von Erich family, again, inside the inside the behind the scenes sort of thing. But it's a fiction. It's based on and inspired by. So again, it's like real actors playing the Von Erichs. It's not a documentary, but it's a very engaging film so far. And I would already, just based on what I've seen, if the wrestler has got like the number one spot, this movie might be right under it. Because it's really giving you an insight into that family dynamic. It was very much from the top down. I mean, the mom and the dad, Fritz and his wife, very much. This is back in the day where, I mean, you talking about adults here, right? And if mom or dad said something, that was the end of the conversation.
Right.
There was no. So again, you were going to be in the wrestling business whether you wanted to or not.
Either way, you're going to be in the family business.
What? Yeah, and it's weird because one of the weakest Von Erich, I think, was Mike Von Erich. He was like the thinnest, skinniest guy. He didn't look like a wrestler. I don't think he wanted to be a wrestler, and unfortunately, he had some sort of infection that really affected his brain or something like that. So he was out of wrestling, and ultimately, he deleted himself. Because of that. But again, it goes into his background and just again that pressure that Fritz was really putting on for his sons to be these guys. And you just saw it. And again, I'm not giving anything away that people don't already know. I mean, David Von Erich, it was supposed to be Kevin was like the oldest, or at least the second oldest.
Yeah, Kevin, I think David.
And then
I think with Kerry as well.
Kerry was the next youngest.
Okay.
And then Mike, and then the little brother, but I think he had some sort of he had medical issues growing up, so he was smaller than everybody else.
Right.
Very small. But it was supposed to be Kevin who was supposed to be the star, and certainly from an athletic point of view, He had he had the talent, but he didn't have the mic skills. David, in fact, from the documentaries I said, it was actually David Von Erich who was supposed to get they were going to put the strap on David Von Erich.
Oh wow!
But unfortunately, he got caught in something. He was in Japan. He had some overdose or something like that, and he had passed away. Very astute. Yes, like Joe Jackson. And then I just saw my wife and we just saw the Michael movie Friday. We went Thursday. We caught an early show Thursday.
Okay.
And I got to tell you, man. Now look, if I'm gonna grade the film, I'm not gonna give it a lot away. If I'm going to grade it, I'm going to give it an incomplete. Because, now again, Jafar Jackson, he pulls it off. I'm telling you. My daughter, in fact, she just texted me. She says she cried throughout the whole movie.
Really?
I mean, yeah, he really does a great job.
Oh, clips of it. My wife heard somewhere that it was bad. That's what she told
me. Well, see,
me.
here's the thing. It's not bad. It's incomplete. Because again, like we've seen, like, I don't know if you've seen Bohemian Rhapsody or some of these other, I mean, these are like 3-hour movies. I mean, these are like epics, right? Or if you saw Ray or I mean, these are three, because again, these are prolific entertainers, have these long lives. Most of these movies are 3.5 hours.
Exactly. You can't put a lot of stuff in 90 minutes.
Right. And so now what I'm hoping what they do with the film is, and again, I've never seen this, but I hope that they could do a sequel. In fact, from what I understand, it's doing pretty well. I think they said it may top 150 million by the time the weekend is over.
Really?
It's doing pretty well. It was, Rotten Tomatoes, I think it was like 40% Rotten Tomatoes, but it's like 96% with the fans. So fans are definitely going to see it. And so it's doing pretty well. So they're already projecting over 100 million for this film. But they could do a sequel and keep it going. But if this is all we're going to get, then you're gonna feel cheated. Because again, if you know Michael Jackson, if you followed anything about it or whatever, you know the stuff that happened.
Right.
It just feels like, okay, the family just wanted to do a fluff piece on Michael and just kind of leave it and sort of leave it there.
If that's what they did, it's a disservice.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So I mean, if you want to do the real, but that unfortunately that's how it is with a lot of these films. You know, I think one reason why I think Bohemian Rhapsody was so good was because again they had kind of like an outside guy. You do your research or whatnot, you present a film. But anytime for a lot of these, the Bob Marley film that came out a few years ago. Again, it's like when you have family that produces it, you're only going to see their good sides.
Right.
Or the sides that they want you to see.
Exactly.
They don't want you to necessarily see the real because they don't want to hurt the image or whatever. So again, I think you have to take it with. So you just look at the executive producer list. It's all the Jacksons. It's all of them. His kids, his brothers. It's like, oh man, this is a Jackson production. But again, if you really want to give people a real breath, I'm saying show everything.
Yeah.
And so, like I said, I hope they do a part 2, and keep it going. Jafar, he could play Michael for 10 years. I mean, but he is good. He is good. And like I said, my daughter, she's like blown away. I mean, just totally, he got that off. But just getting back to the old wrestling thing, or at least the Iron Claw movie, they're not pulling punches. And like I said, it's a very enthralling film. So already it's up there. And I think certainly it's definitely worth watching if you hadn't had a chance to watch it already. But Fritz, very much like Joe Jackson, it was like his word was gospel. And it kind of, to me, it's almost like these, we've seen these father and son type of movies, Fences and things of that nature. It kind of hits you, in different ways, depending on the relationship that you have with your dad or whatever.
Right.
Not everybody can handle that. Some people, some kids or whatever, even if you're successful, like I said, just like with Michael and Joe, we all know Michael and Joe. We all know how Joe ran that family.
Yep.
Yeah, they were successful, but you asked the question
Right.
also, but at what cost?
Yeah.
You know, and you don't realize, what again what the side effects of that is, and like I said, we saw what happened with Fritz and the boys, and you have to ask themselves, like, would he have done it differently? I don't think he would have, but again, not everybody's built for that kind of pressure,
Yeah.
and yeah, so I would say that movie is worth, if you haven't seen it. It's on Netflix now. Like I said, I may finish the rest of it tonight,
Okay.
and you know, but that one would definitely be a yeah. It's on Netflix. The Iron Claw is the name of the film, and it's got the guy, I forget the guy's name, who played High School Musical,
Zac
the
Efron.
main.
Yeah, Zac Efron.
Yeah, and he's pretty jacked in I know he's always been like the buff guy from the High School Musical and stuff like that.
Yeah, he
He's
did the
done some roles, but he's jacked himself pretty well for these roles, and so I think he does a decent job in it as well. But yeah, but if you do get a chance to see it, I would definitely say, check it out, and I will let you get your 2 cents on it. Once you once you see it. But yeah, it's definitely it's a look in, and again, it's just a series of circumstances. Like, it also happens that, and again, this is all known. Kerry Von Erich, he was actually on his way to the Olympics.
Mhm.
He was a discus thrower, and he was Olympic bound, but we both remember 1980 Olympics. U.S. pulls out because the Russians invading Afghanistan,
Yeah, that's right.
and
And all their allies too. A lot of countries also.
yeah, and then subsequently, I remember the '84 Olympics in L.A. The Soviet bloc, they
Yeah,
banned.
everyone else did
it
the same
out.
thing. So it was like,
So basically, it was like, so I was like '84. It's like, yeah, U.S. is running all these gold medals in gymnastics, all this stuff. It's like, yeah, because the Russians aren't there,
no
and
East Germany, no
no Cuba.
Czechoslovakia,
And that's
no.
the thing too. Now people talk about that 1984 Olympic boxing team. You had Meldrick Taylor, you had Terrell Biggs, you had Evander Holyfield,
Mhm.
Henry Tillman. All these guys won gold medals, and certainly these guys went on to have great
Great careers.
boxing careers. But I still got to put an asterisk on it because they didn't fight the Cubans.
And the Cubans
And
have always had an excellent boxing program.
yeah, or the Russians. You know what I mean? So again, it's kind of tainted when you don't have those guys there. I mean, especially in the heavyweight, the Teofilo Stevenson, who's considered one of the greatest amateur heavyweight boxers of all time. In fact, I remember back in the '70s, they were trying to, because I think he won like 3 or 4 straight Olympics or something like that. I think from '72 to '80,
They were
and
trying
they
to
were
get
trying to actually get him into a fight with Muhammad Ali. But he was certainly very loyal to his country, and he wouldn't defect. But if he would have defected, Teofimo versus Ali might have been like the biggest fight of that era, bigger than Foreman, or Frazier or whatever. It would have been right up there with the elites because he was such a dominant amateur boxing champion.
right.
People were clamoring for him to go pro, and he didn't, and he stayed loyal to the Cuban system and their program, and he never made that move. But that would have been amazing. Him on fighting any of those guys, Frazier, Foreman, any of those guys in the '70s would have been great. Norton, any of those guys. But Teo versus Ali, man, that was one of those, like, if you can kind of go back in time, it makes the like your dream matchup. That would have been it. Yeah.
Yeah, I think back to the Von Erichs. Didn't Kerry lose his foot? I think he lost his foot in an
He
accident.
lost it. He was in a motorcycle accident. Yeah.
He was still able to wrestle.
Yeah, they fit him. See, the thing, I don't know if it was like a full foot replacement, or half a foot. I don't know what it was, but yeah, they put a boot on him, and he was able to move. But he wasn't the same athlete. He wasn't gonna go flying off the top rope like
Right.
he was doing before. He definitely became much more of a brawler type. He would hit you with the right hands like that. When he got to the WWF, the Texas Tornado,
Right.
I mean, basically all he did was kind of mug guys. He'd do the spin and knock guys out, or he put the claw on him, and that was it. So he was very limited athletically because of that injury. And but it was definitely but that was all part of, because so David had died years earlier. They put the belt on Kerry, but he only held it for like a couple weeks, and then they gave it back to Ric Flair. Kevin was never in the title picture, but then again, they were, again, they were given so much. It's like the same kind of story, right?
Mm-hmm.
You got these guys that may come up hard or have this disciplinarian father, whatever. They start tasting success. All the women want them. You combine money with drugs, with alcohol. People get, like, they were going into dealerships and guys just give them a car. Like, imagine go to a car dealership and be like, here, just drive a car. Because if the Von Erichs got one, then that just draws a, to
Right.
the, it was all about the marketing
Right.
aspect of it.
And I think that's what Ric Flair brought when he became the Nature Boy. That's what he brought. You know, the fancy robes, the suits, the Rolex watches, the snakeskin shoes,
Yeah.
the whole, like, he brought that persona.
Right.
I remember watching the 30 for 30 on Ric Flair, and they talked about how he got into the business, how it was him and Ricky the Dragon Steamboat training together. Like, one of the craziest things they had him doing. I think Rugged Ronnie Garvin was part of that group. I think it was Larry Axe Hennig was part of that group as well.
Well, it had to be Kurt. Larry, that was the father. That he's like the OG from the '60s and
Kurt Hennig.
'70s.
I think it was Kurt Hennig. And they were talking about how they literally had to run up and down. Like, he had them doing wheelbarrows up and down the stairs in these old buildings in the summertime.
Yeah. Now, conditioning back then, it wasn't about the buff body, even though you started to have those guys start to come into it.
Right.
It was definitely about the conditioning, because, again, these guys, like, were doing 60-minute Broadways. You know what I'm saying? So, again, conditioning was everything back then, and they all took it up a level, because, if you look at a lot of those wrestlers, but like even like Harley Race, right? In fact, he is weird because he's in the movie, a guy playing Harley Race in the film, and again, Harley Race looks like nothing to write home about at all. Got a big old pot belly. He's he's not an athlete by any means. Not he's not going to win any muscle contests by any means. But again, but he was just this rugged type of individual, and he was one of those shooters. He's one of those guys you didn't mess with. You always had guys going into bars and stuff, and guys want to test them out. Wrestling's not real or whatever. No, he would take you out, like, straight up. Like, I mean, these guys, certainly, like I said, Haku is probably the number one on that list.
Yes.
Harley Race was up there. Harley Race would really, you didn't want to challenge a guy like that, because he just had no filter, no problem hurting anybody who got into his no question about it. No, he was a baddie. But those wrestlers back then, it wasn't about how you looked, it was about toughness. But then people start to catch on. Yeah, people do like to see athletic looking guys. Guys could be on a movie cover or magazine cover, and looks start to, again, like anything else, looks sell. And you want the ladies at the ring or whatnot. I mean, the one thing with the Von Erichs, I mean, again, they were all relatively handsome guys, and all the girls wanted them, all of them. So again, you combine those two things together, and yeah, you're gonna have, with the access to certain things. They say money and access doesn't change you; it basically shows you who you are.
Right.
And Harley was Harley was reckless. You didn't mess with But I think even Roddy said a lot of wrestlers back then packed, because, again, especially, look, if you in the South, me and you in the South in a car, and we run up on some town or whatever, and some hicks are gonna be like, "Yo, what are you guys doing here?" It's like, "Low." It may have to come to that. So yeah, everybody packed back then, had a little pistol or something, because, again, people were crazy, and again, people treated wrestling seriously.
Right.
Like I said, if you want to start a fight with a wrestling fan, especially in the South, tell them it's fake. For a wrestling fan. and you're gonna have a fight in your hands. You know what I
Oh,
mean? Those are fight.
I've witnessed it. I've been down southern. I've witnessed
Exactly. Them fighting words right there. So yeah, yeah,
exactly,
to protect yourself at all times was certainly there before Mills Lane started saying it.
exactly.
And so I think the film is definitely showing me that. I said definitely looking forward to finishing and seeing how it ends. So I would definitely put that on a must watch list. In addition to certainly the wrestler, if you haven't had a chance to see it the all way through, it's a hard watch, but it definitely gives some life to things. And I think what it also does, just in terms of, ju- I guess, just how human beings are flawed, right?
Right.
Because you see, like, he wants to kind of do the right thing, but stuff happens. He might have a like an alcohol binge or something like that, and it's like, oh snap, I was supposed to meet my daughter today or whatever, and I got a little bit too much of me last night, and then I messed it up, and now she's mad at me again.
Mhm.
It's just like, man, it's like you just wanted something to go right for him
Right.
at some point in time. And it just like, he just couldn't kind of get it started. And unfortunately, you do have people who are like that. It's like, yeah, they try, but it's like they're their own worst enemies to an
Yeah.
extent, even though they may have good
Right.
hearts. But again, without discipline, without, certainly discipline your flesh,
Yeah.
yeah, things, even if you want to do right, you find yourself on the wrong side of the fence a lot of times.
Yeah.
Yes, I think the wrestler by far is on an island into itself,
Yeah.
and to me, it's still the best wrestling movie of all time. And I can't see what's going to replace it now. If they ever come out with maybe like a Hulk Hogan movie or something, but do it for real.
Yeah.
I'm not talking about no holds barred or whatever, but like do a real movie on Hogan or even Flair.
Yeah.
If they did a movie on Flair, now that's interesting. I'm trying to think who could who could play Flair. Like who would, like I can't think of anybody now that I could see casting like who would actually be able to pull that off. Because also again, you're talking about two different people. You would
Right.
have to do a lot of AI, right, or something, because like I said, the Ric Flair photo that I showed you, look at any photo of Ric Flair prior to 1974.
Right.
He looks very different from that. He's 40, 60 pounds lighter. And with the blonde hair and the robes and all that other stuff that kind of came later, it's a very different it's a very different look.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes,
Yeah.
Eric. First of all, Eric loves Marissa
Yes,
Tomei.
oh,
I
man.
mean, absolutely loves her. So yeah, so she was definitely, she put it this way, she was very different from her role on A Different World. I'll say that.
Mhm.
So yeah, so he's enthralled with her because of that.
Right.
But yeah, man. I mean, certainly, like I said, you've had some decent films. Any other films that you can think of that are memorable besides the ones we've covered tonight? Because I know there's a few, and quite frankly, there's a lot of these I've never seen. So I got to be
I actually
on.
the list. I actually typed into IMDb, and there's one person named Al Lakar 225 posted a list 8 years ago,
Mhm,
and he modified it last week,
mhm,
and he put this was his list. I'm not gonna read all the movies. He
right,
he said Body Slam.
right.
He also mentioned the one you also were telling me, All the Marbles. He puts in Ready to Rumble. He puts in both variations of The Wrestler.
Mhm,
He puts in Grunt the Wrestling Movie, No Holds Barred, Nacho Libre
yeah.
with Jack Black. Another one called Slammed, Wrestling Queens, Blood Circus, Backyard Dogs,
Mhm,
Choke Slam, Fighting with My Family. I think that's a documentary. I'm not
mhm,
sure.
yeah.
This one is a foreign one. I think it's from South Korea. It's called The Foul King.
Mm,
He posted that, and I'm looking at what else he posted as well. He posted a couple of cartoons, of course, the Jetsons and Scooby Doo. all associated with the WWE and the Flintstones as well.
Yeah, yeah.
One he's posted, I think it's called Night in the City, but he also does post the one and only. He also does post the one and only as well.
Yeah.
What else? Ironically, he actually put Rocky 3.
Well, yeah, because that was the one with
Hogan.
Hulk Hogan as Thunder Lips. So that was a memorable scene, certainly in the film, which is why Rocky 3 is my favorite Rocky.
Yeah.
Of all the Rockies, Rocky 3.
I'm actually Rocky 4.
Yeah.
I'll go Rocky.
I get you, but I'm thinking the combination of Mr. T, who was the scariest, that was the scariest dude I ever saw. When I saw it in the theater, the opening sequence where they're doing Eye of the Tiger,
Yeah.
and Clubber Lang knocks a guy out of the ring, and he starts yelling at Mickey, "Hey, old man, you tell my boy I'm coming after him." Nobody's I was scared to death. I never saw a brother like that with a mohawk like that before. And he just looked larger than life, which is interesting because, again, Mr. T's a small guy. So it's just amazing you just how at the time, just how the depending on how they shoot it, a guy can look massive. But really, Mr. T is like 5'9", 5'10". He's not a big guy, but he was so. I never saw a brother like that intimidating ever in a film. I didn't think they would even shoot anything like that. Not even the blaxploitation films. I never saw a brother look like that.
Exactly.
And so you figure the combination of that versus Hulk Hogan or Thunder Lips, certainly in the film. It just brought everything there. And then with when Rocky and Apollo joined forces to beat Clubber, I'm like, oh yeah, this is it rang all the boxes. It hit all the it hit all the boxes for me.
Yeah. I'm always gonna say Rocky 4. A couple other movies, Man on the Moon. I Like to Hurt People. That actually has Abdullah the Butcher in it as well.
Yeah. Man on the Moon, that was the one with Andy Kaufman, right?
Right.
Yeah.
That's the movie with Jim Carrey and Danny DeVito, and they actually did get Jerry King Lawler to reprise his role.
Oh wow!
In the movie,
right?
And he talked about his time when he had that situation with Andy Kaufman and everything else that went on. He actually even has the TV series Glow, Gorgeous Ladies of Wrestling. I think the updated version, not the original from back in the 80s. And what else? Wrestling is wrestling. I think some of these are like documentaries,
right,
as well. But he had a very good look. He had a very good list of movies. He had Hitman Hart, Wrestling with Shadows, The Naked Man. Yeah, he had Blood and Guts. She basically had a good list of movies that you've heard of. A lot of these I never heard of.
Yeah.
And he had a couple of documentaries as well. 2 documentaries I see that he had. That's real. Well, 3 I see right here. Resurrection of Jake the Snake, The Sheik, and Dynamite Kid, A Matter of Pride.
Yeah, yeah. Like I said, there's a ton of. That's why I didn't want to go into. Again, that might be another show.
Yeah,
where we could talk about the documentaries because those really,
they
really take you inside. So, but I think the fact that we want to focus on movies, whether fictionalized movies or movies based on real things or whatever, I think that was sort of the thrust tonight. But yeah, there's a bunch of documentaries.
Yeah,
I
think that's something we can talk about next week.
Yeah, especially when you even think about even the weekly shows like Dark Side of the Ring. I don't know if you ever see those.
I watched them.
Yeah, I mean those really take you in as well. I mean those are pretty engaging features that they do on a weekly basis. I know Eric mentions there was a TV series that was on. I remember that back in the day. Lyle Alzado, he played a professional wrestler. The show was called Learning the Ropes.
Oh wow!
And they had a lot of guys from the NWA, WCW who made cameo appearances there. So I know the Rock and Roll Express. They were on for a show. I mean, they had several cast members or certainly wrestlers from the NWA who were also part of the show as well. I think he played a school teacher by day and then a wrestler at night or something like that.
Oh wow!
And but it's interesting. Like I don't know if you remember, like George the Animal Steel.
Yes, I remember.
He was that guy. He was a teacher. So it's just amazing that he plays this character who's basically like this savage guy who can barely speak, but he's like an English professor or something like that during the day. And he was able to pull that. But see, that's the thing. He was able to pull that off for years again because either he wrestled outside of where he was, so it was a different territory, and it wasn't going to be necessarily common or public knowledge that he was there. But it's hard to do those things anymore with the age of the internet and all the things that go on.
Yeah.
You can't keep that a secret
Nah.
For too long. And I don't think most schools or PJs like, yeah, you're wrestling this side gig as a wrestler. Not sure that's a good idea for the
Well,
kids.
one wrestler that actually did good with himself after wrestling was Tito Santana. He actually became a high school teacher here in Jersey.
Yeah. Oh, I heard that recently. I did not know that, but I did. I thought I recall hearing that recently. That I didn't know he was in Jersey though. But
Yeah. He was a high school teacher here in Jersey. What's good, Braxton? Shout out. He actually is a high school teacher here in Jersey. I don't know which town or which school district, but
Mhm.
remember he was doing that, and I think he also owned a hair salon. I could be wrong.
Yeah,
He found a way to still keep himself busy in some way, shape, or form. He actually has come back and done a few things with WWE. So he's probably signed to one of those legacy contracts to where he comes out every now and then and still goes back to what he was doing.
yeah,
So, and I think it's a good thing because I feel like he was one of those talented wrestlers that got overlooked. When he wrestled under his name Tito Santana, he pulled it off.
Mhm.
And then when he teamed up with Rick Martel to be Strike Force, they were a very good tandem. And then I remember, I think one of the last things he did, he came wrestling as El Matador. He actually wore everything associated with being a Matador.
yeah.
And after that, it's like he just fell off.
Yeah. Again, that's that. Unfortunately, that was the McMahon era. Now he was very good as an Intercontinental Champion
Yes.
in the mid '80s.
Yes.
In fact, Randy's once Savage came in and beat him, he was never on top again until Strike Force in '87, and he kind of got back on top there. But he was very good as the Intercontinental Champion at that particular time. I mean, it was a very good run for him.
And I think,
Yeah.
like I said before, I remember on one previous show, the one thing I've always liked about the Intercontinental Championship, it was a test to see, can we put you up there on the main card? Tito Santana, Randall Macho Man Savage, Kurt Hennig, Rick Rude. When you look at all the other wrestlers that have won the Intercontinental title, that was always the stepping stone to see, okay, can we put you on the main card? Can you handle the pressure? I've always respected and loved the Intercontinental title because I felt like that was the title that you would win. And that was that was the litmus test to see if you had what it takes.
Well, yeah, at least up to a point because it wasn't until Randy Savage. Randy Savage might have been the first one to win an IC belt and then go on to become the champion.
Yeah.
Then outside of that, it was like Ultimate Warrior. He ultimately won it, being IC champion went on. But generally, it was almost like two separate things. It was like you were always going to be one notch below. It wasn't like, because generally speaking, especially with the way the model worked back then, the IC champion, I mean, sometimes you could be a heel or a face.
Right.
McMahon always wanted his champion to be a face. Like when Superstar Billy Graham run it was only supposed to be like a temporary thing, and that was because Bruno Sammartino wanted to leave. He needed a break.
Right.
And so he was only supposed to have it for a couple months. Superstar Billy Graham had it for over a year.
Right.
And so they were training Bob Backlund to come in and to ultimately beat him, but it was hard to take it off a Superstar because he was selling out Madison Square Garden.
Right.
And so that was like, do we really want to make that move? But Vince McMahon Sr. said, look, I kept my word to Bob Backlund. I'm going to make him champion. If that was Junior, he would have scrap that. I mean, we got a guy who's like box office, and I'm not going to trade him with Howdy Doody, which is what they used to call Bob Backlund right then. Howdy Doody.
That's why.
Yeah. Yeah, he was awful. I mean, shoot, you want to talk about like a shooter, like a legit dude? I'd put Bob Backlund on the same level as Kurt Angle or Brock Lesnar in terms of amateur wrestling background.
Mm.
But as far as on the mic, awful. And this is before the Mr. Backlund days when he went, when he went nuts.
Right.
Awful on the mic, but that's what he wanted. But as far as his wrestling ability in ring or whatever, he was great.
Yeah.
But the idea of having, the IC guy, just like in the NWA, right? You had either the TV champion or the what's the belt? What do they call it in
Title.
the what's that?
Was that the U.S. title?
U.S. Right, the U.S. title. So Magnum TA,
Yeah.
he was in line to be the champion, but unfortunately he had that accident, and the rest was history. But generally, so it really just depended. It's like sometimes the Intercontinental or the U.S. champion, yeah, you were like the number one contender.
Yeah.
But it didn't always mean that you were going to be in contention for it. And I think now Eric says that
Wonderful. Yeah.
certainly that Orndorff could have been. I think he could have been a champion, to be honest with you. I mean, if something happened to Hogan where he got hurt, I think Orndorff definitely could have carried that mantle of being the champion, but it never materialized. And they had some great matches. The feud that he had with Roddy Piper after WrestleMania, that was a good feud as well. But he never got that bounce.
He lived up to the name Mr. Wonderful. That's how good of a wrestler he was, and he got overlooked. And too. And another one that he just named too, Greg the Hammer Valentine, very good wrestler.
Yeah,
definitely underrated, definitely overlooked a lot.
Yeah,
and this was the guy that knew how to place the figure four. People always think Ric Flair
no.
Greg the Hammer Valentine was the one wrestler that knew to put on that figure four. And the one thing that worked in his favor, he had that left shin guard. Remember?
Yeah.
On his leg.
Yeah, he would lower it down.
He put it down. He flipped it backwards, and then the minute he put you in that figure four, that was it.
Yeah.
And I feel like he never really got the respect he deserved. Now,
yeah, he was a great heel, but again, just keep in mind, back then heels were not intended to win championships for very long. It was a placeholder until the guy, but generally the model's always been until again the Attitude Era.
Yes,
is where you would put the belt on a heel. But back again, the traditional model was at least the WWF. Now again, NWA. Ric Flair was mostly a heel for the most of his run as champion.
Right.
Every once in a while, they flipped in the face for a minute. I think when he went against the Koloffs early, they flipped him a little bit. But generally, he works best as a heel, and he's the guy that you want to beat every night.
Right.
So again, a very different business model depending on the territory and how they want their champions to be done. But Vince McMahon Sr., Bruno Sammartino, Bob Backlund, Pedro Morales. And it's interesting, from what I understand, the reason why he took the belt off of Pedro. So when Bruno left in 1971, he put the belt on. Ivan Koloff beat Bruno.
Oh, wow.
He then put the belt on Pedro, but he had to take the belt off of Pedro because the Garden crowd, since obviously New York City has a very large Puerto Rican contingency, anytime if the match didn't go right, guys were getting stabbed straight up. I mean, like I said, back then, even in the New York territory, people took their wrestling very seriously. And God forbid if he lost the belt in Madison Square Garden, it would have been a riot. In fact, when Superstar Billy Graham beat Bruno Sammartino for the belt in 77, 78, when he beat him for it, they did it in Baltimore. They were not going to do it in the Garden because, again, Italian Americans sold out Madison Square Garden. So they're not going to see their hero beat in Madison Square Garden. It would have been a riot. So like I said, I would have loved to have gone to a match back then, or been privy to that. But again, it's just one of those things where again I think the old school wrestling fan, you bought in. When I found out it was like, yeah, it was kayfabe, like I was like, I didn't want to believe it at first. It's like when you tell a 5-year-old there's no Santa Claus.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, what do you mean? It's like I just thought it was a bunch of Grinches just going around just trying to ruin my Christmas. Now you're taking my wrestling away from me and whatnot. So I just thought they was like the cruelest guys. But but yeah, the times, certainly when that stuff was out, it was taken very seriously. So again, wrestler, it definitely lifted any veil off of whatever you thought it was, but it doesn't mean that these guys certainly don't have a hard life. That for most guys, it's hard. Not only you're dealing with injuries that are not covered by insurance, or you're dealing with, again, just the family breakdowns, or you're dealing with substance issues, or just, again, adjustment life after the ring.
Right.
And the thing that gets me a lot of times is just, if I was going to speak on the documentaries for a little bit, again, watch the documentaries on the indies. And these guys are like, really, it's like, where do you plan to go with this? I mean, you're talking about wrestling in not even like in a barn or in a office complex or something where it's like, yeah, they set up a ring on an upper floor and there's no more than 50 people in there. So again, where you think that wrestling is this glamorous lifestyle is not.
Gym, somebody's backyard. Where else can I think of a couple of places? An old ice rink,
Yeah.
In an abandoned hospital or a parking garage. It's like anywhere where you could bring people to come out to watch. They don't care if it's 2 people or 200.
Yeah.
They're still going to go all out.
Yeah. While it's still at the same time, they're trying to, like I said, maintain regular lives at the same time. A lot of these guys, you work 9 to 5 and then you try to wrestle afterwards. But then you got to be careful because, again, you're 9 to 5. It's like I said, when it comes to insurance, it's like, yeah, you're covered for insurance on the job. Now, if you're going to go out there and do something, stupid, we ain't covering, because you broke your leg because you were out there wrestling at night and you got an office job or whatever. It's like, no, we're not covering that. So again, these are things that, certainly go with the certainly go with the business. That is certainly reality of it. It's not for the faint of heart. It's not for the weak. And as much as we used to say, yeah, back in the day, oh yeah, we love to be wrestlers. I wouldn't last. Knowing me, I wouldn't last a day, and not even a day, an hour in a wrestling ring. I just
for 30 years ago or 30 years ago.
30 years ago, I was 150 pounds, man. At 6'3". So there's no way they would have looked at me and be like, "No, go home. You don't look like a wrestler. You don't look like you live. You haven't lifted a weight in your life." When I graduated college, I was 147 pounds at 6'3". When I got married, I was 158 pounds when I got married.
Wow.
So nah, they would have looked at me and been like, "Nah, man, go put on 30 pounds and come see us. And maybe we might be able to do something with you." But I would have been broken in half. I would have been,
honestly, during my army weight, I was around between 175, 185.
Mm-hmm.
I might have, if I was at my army weight at that time, I might have.
How tall are you?
I'm around 5'8", 5'9".
Okay.
So I might have been it
might have worked. Yeah, I can certainly see it working for you then. Yeah.
Probably would have worked for me.
That's a decent one because you don't want to be too muscular because again, you're going to be limited in what you do, how they're going to have you doing things, but you need to be able to move around,
right?
To be athletic or whatnot. If you could do some kip ups and you can do some, certain thing. Did you have to do that stuff? You have to climb up the rope climbs and stuff like that. You had
like that. Yeah, the cargo net, the slide for life.
I mean the rope, like the Yeah. Whatever happened to that? They used to do that in gym class.
Hey, like I said,
you had to climb up to the ceiling of the gymnasium and down.
You get
Could
up.
you imagine a kid in 2026? It's like, go to gym class. This is we're not doing stickball. We're not doing kickball. We're not doing basketball. It's like
Climb that rope.
now. By the time I was there, you still had the rope climb. I never did it. They had other tests you did, but well, I mean, but it was military style. We did jumping jacks. Like everybody was lined up.
Yeah.
You had to do jumping jacks on cadence. You had to do burpees. You had to do certain push-ups. I mean, and your fitness test was those things. How many push-ups you can do, how many subs you can do,
And
how
a
many
2 mile run.
chins you could do.
And a 2
There
mile
was
run.
a lot of stuff like that you had to do back in the day, but now it's yeah, I don't know what the fit test is for kids. I know my kids when they were in high school, they did very little involving fitness. Fitness, like, okay, play basketball or something, but they weren't saying, okay, girls, get on, get on your knees and give me 20. I mean,
Right.
you know,
I actually did a show about that's the problem now because back then, one of the first places you learned the importance of staying in shape was gym class.
yeah,
Now you're hearing that some schools don't even do that anymore.
yeah. Yeah,
I heard
no, it's terrible right now. I mean, but do keep in mind this is back in the day when they had. Now again, I'm not to get political or anything, but they talk about possibly bringing the draft back. I'm not necessarily opposed to that at least from the standpoint of a lot of those gym classes, the way they were run, were the idea that more than likely you join in the army or you could potentially go, especially in the six. Like if you ever watch YouTube, those videos of gym class in the 60s,
yeah,
they were basically doing boot camp stuff because yeah, you could be set once you graduate, you could be drafted into the army and possibly go to Vietnam or Korea, whatever the conflict was at the time.
right,
So you wanted to kind of get a head start. So a lot of those fit tests were based on basic training, what you'd be doing there.
exactly.
And I do think there's something that's lacking when, again, you don't have kids that are really being pushed to be physical. I'm not saying everybody can do. I get it. You may have to tailor some things, based on the kid or whatever. But I do think that is something that's missing, not having a fit population. And certainly our lack of exercise is or calisthenics or whatever some sort of protocol is lacking that. If you want to get these kids in the gym, you want to have them doing squats and presses and clean and jerks or whatever. I don't mind that either. But certainly, you know, every kid should be able to do 20, 25 push-ups. I mean, that's uh, but that's maybe another discussion.
Yeah,
Maybe me and P may cover that on the gray area or something like that, as far as fitness or class fitness or something like that. But listen, man, we can start to land this plane. I think we've certainly covered. I think our knowledge of again wrestling films, and again we only kept it to films. Like I
right.
said, we may want to do another show that covers documentaries because there's
Honestly,
an untold number of documentaries and shoot interviews and all kinds of things where you could get the real on what happened to certain individuals. You got Dark Side of the Ring.
yep.
You have a lot of certainly outlets that are filled with wrestling behind the scenes type of content. But as far as in the entertainment space, the movie space, it's two movies for me. Like I said, The Wrestler, the 2008 with Mickey Rourke, definitely should be on your watch list. And I would even put The Iron Claw right behind it. Certainly I'm enjoying it so far, and I know how the story ends, so to speak, with the Von Erichs, but I
Right.
want to see how the movie frames it. Do they try to do kind of like a PR cover on it, or are they going to give you the real of what's going on? So I'm looking forward to seeing how it
So
ends.
am I. So am I.
But we definitely know what happened. We know what happened to David, and we know what happened to Carrie. We know what happened to Mike and even the youngest brother.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, all those guys, took themselves out. Unfortunately, and you only have Kevin's the only surviving, and you can tell. I mean, even when you look at him now, compared to the guy he was, like everybody gets old,
Right.
but you can tell the whole experience has aged him, like in a way, like he has carried a lot of weight that nobody should have to carry, and he's had to certainly do that. So certainly, I really empathize with Kevin and that burden that but he's wanted. I mean, the family was inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame, even though And it's interesting because I know McMahon Jr. wanted the Von Erichs very early on. He wanted those guys back in 84, 85.
Right.
But for whatever reason, it didn't materialize. But I remember that he was um doing pieces in his early WWF magazine at the time on the Von Erichs. Like he was trying to do the pitch then. But certainly he inducted those guys a few years ago, the entire family in, and Kevin certainly presented. But you could tell this is like the whole thing is just worn on him
Yeah.
in such a way that again nobody's should carry that. But I think he's got a couple sons who are trying to be wrestlers though. So
I won't be surprised. I
yeah,
won't
so
be
s
surprised.
that I'll be looking to follow up on that. But yeah, so we can go to final thoughts.
One
And certainly if you want to give, and I won't give you can just shoot from I know Pete likes to show all our pimples and marks on our faces and whatnot. I'm not going to do that to you. But any final thoughts that you have as we land this plane?
looking at this list and talking about some of these movies makes me want to go try and check these movies out. Cause like I said, I saw a little bit of The Wrestler, the Mickey Rourke version, but I never saw it
Mhm.
entirety. Never saw the Iron Claw. But I definitely want to check out that 1974 version that you told me about of The Wrestler.
Yeah,
Sounds very interesting.
yeah,
Really does. And looking at some of these movies that we mentioned, like Body Slam and No Holds Barred, it showed how pro wrestling was trying to go mainstream, how it's starting to become part of the pop culture. But they never strayed away from anything and everything associated with the business. And I think that's one of the reasons why I really appreciate those movies when I was young, because you still got an understanding of the business at the same time. They weren't just like, oh, we're just going to go through the motions, but to have actual wrestlers in it. And I think in Body Slam, some of the other wrestlers that were in the movie were, some of them probably were jobbers or shooters in the independent circuit.
Mhm.
And the fact that they had a chance to get there, the fact they had an opportunity to go up with against Tonga Kid and Roddy Piper probably was one of those experiences they could look back as, yeah, that was a great experience. I remember that X number of years ago. That was a great time. I learned a lot from these guys too when we weren't filming and so on and so forth. So I would love to check out some of these movies that we talked about, but one wrestling family I would love to see a movie on, and not a documentary, but an actual movie
Right.
similar to the Iron Claw when it talked about the Von Erichs. I would like to see a wrestling movie based on the Hart family.
Mm.
That would be really interesting
Yeah.
because we hear so much about Fritz Von Erich and getting his sons into the business and explaining them the importance of respecting everything associated with the business. It'd be real interesting to see if Stu Hart was the same.
Yeah.
That's a movie I would love to watch about the Hart family.
Yeah.
How Brett and Owen and everyone else got involved in the business, how they all went from Stampede Wrestling to some of the biggest names in the WWE. It would be really interesting to see.
Yeah.
And if it's possible, I would love to. I would love to see everyone in the family sign off on it. And as much as I know Owen's widow would not want people to know Owen as just a wrestler, I would feel maybe this is an opportunity for her and her children to show a side of Owen that most people don't know about.
Mhm.
And that's all I got to say. Know some words we're thinking about.
Yeah, yeah, and I would definitely say too that certainly that dynamic, and again, there've been documentaries that's been done on it, and still, the relationship with the Hearts and WWE still it's still tenuous. I think to an extent, it might be easier now that Vince is not there. But certainly the night that Owen got taken out, a lot of those were all Vince and his decisions and whatnot. So you certainly had for a lot of years you had the target to shoot at, but now you have with TKO running things and it's a different structure, whatnot. How much certainly would the new structure embrace the Hearts in a way that wasn't done before? Um, you know that can get that can get messy. But certainly, I think it's a story that should be told. I think from their perspective, and certainly, certainly, I would be very interested to watch something that would certainly cover that, whether it be in a documentary or in a fictionalized film that's based on their life. But yeah, but I would say definitely those two films, The Wrestler and No Holds Barred. I mean, The Iron Claw, definitely movies worth seeing. And we like to get your 2 cents. I mean, certainly, for those who will watch, stay tuned certainly to the Sparta HQ Network on Friday nights. There's a Wrestle Talk show. I know that certainly the assignment now is, I know you got the Hulk Hogan documentary on Netflix, which I plan on watching this week, and hopefully we'll have a future show to talk about that. And from what I understand, it's definitely going to cover a lot of his latter days and things that he had to deal with at the time. And I admit, I mean, certainly some of the things about Hogan, especially when some of the recorded stuff came out, was certainly disappointing. Again, what I always say, like, you never meet your heroes, and that was one of the things where I actually stopped wearing certain merch. I was literally just listening to an interview on the Art of Dialogue dealing with Khalil Ali, Muhammad Ali's ex-wife, and she shared some things that were very, and I knew them, but it's just when you hear it, it's kind of like, you know, do I feel comfortable wearing a Muhammad Ali shirt
Mm,
or his face or whatever, or Bruce Lee for that matter? Like, found out he had a major drug issue. It's like a lot of times it's, you appreciate what they've done as far as in the arts or in the sports or whatever. As persons and individuals, you could say, well, yeah, they were, flawed individuals as we all are.
right,
But then you got to ask yourself too, like, what are the limits? You know what I mean? Because some of the things that Mrs. Ali was sharing were pretty, kind of, it was kind of tough to stomach. So again, even when you look at Ali and knowing that if he did those things, assuming that she's telling the truth on those things,
right.
it's kind of hard to support certain things. So
Can you
I'm less
send me the
with
link?
hope. Yeah, what's that?
That interview. If you can find it, can you shoot me that
Yeah,
link?
yeah, it's a multi-party interview. It's on our Art Dialogue, but yeah, I'll send you a link to it.
Cool. Thanks.
And so she kind of goes in, and really she shared more on another one that I heard earlier, I think last year, that was even worse in terms of his interactions and whatnot. But that being said, with Hogan, certainly I was one of the original Hulkamaniacs. I had the Hulkamania shirt. I would do stuff, and it's like when I saw the stuff, I was like, oh man, it's like,
I
so
wonder,
do you,
does the documentary also touch on all the other issues prior to that one?
no, well, I haven't seen it yet. Like I said, so I'm looking to see it, but I just knew because that was like Access Hollywood stuff that came out when the tapes dropped and everything, and so and then in his latter years he really went off the rails. So again, but definitely I'm gonna watch the documentary, and certainly we can have a further discussion on it when we all kind of get back together again, bring it up on the Wrestle Talk show, and we'll chop it up then. But certainly, hopefully, you guys enjoyed the show tonight. Again, thanks to my guy Eric certainly for being a part of the conversation tonight as well. And just a show update. I know tomorrow on the gray area, we're talking about taxes and our current tax system alternatives, and how our taxes shape up compared to other tax systems around the world. How does our tax system look in terms of compared to like Canada or some other countries? And do the citizens get certainly what they're paying? Are they getting their return back? So we're gonna have a discussion on that. Certainly look forward to the convo, and then stay tuned. Certainly next week, for future shows dealing with different topics within the Spartan Arena, and hopefully, if not next week, definitely by the week after, definitely beginning of the month, bringing next gen training back with the coach. We were able to get a line of shows together, so I need to start putting the final finishing touches on those, and get me and coach back on Thursday nights. And yeah, sort of to fill out the roster. Although I will admit, having the Thursdays off, like I needed the time off because like I was doing shows Tuesday night, Wednesday. I mean, I'm hustling here, so it's like, yeah, having the extra Thursdays off, it's been a good break for us. But yeah, I can certainly see filling the space again. So So certainly for myself and Anton, just make sure as you leave tonight, make sure you hit the like button on the way out. And again, consider becoming a subscriber to the Smart HQ Network. We're trying to fill out a weekly roster for you guys. Keep it fun, keep it informative and entertaining as well. And so we definitely look forward to having these series of shows on a weekly basis. But Anton, as usual, thanks for sharing the content with me. And hopefully, I'll give you a spot next Wednesday sports show. You can give us what's going on with the. You can give us an update what's going on with the hockey. Though I would say Philly's looking pretty dominant, right? At least in that opening round series, they're looking pretty good. So they might be a problem for a lot of teams going forward. But
I
I'm sure you'll give us the rundown, and I'll try to
I'm up to you guys Wednesday.
appreciate it. All right, guys, it was certainly enjoyed having you guys tonight. Take care. From our end, God bless, and we'll see you next week. Good night.
Have a good one.